Yes, that's usually the average. One every month knows about Geology, Texas. But what he did is he spent years going up and down the river, seeing what he could see in the canyon walls, then brought his friends along and checked to see if his imagination was as good as theirs or theirs was as good as his. And what you get tonight is what he came up with. So it's pretty spectacular. It's not a Disney show, so there's no fireworks, there's no laser lights except for my fancy green one that you get to see going upriver. But we do shine 40,000 watts of lights on those canyon walls. It's pretty bright. Are you excited about that? Don't be scared, they don't shine in your face. Sometimes I accidentally shine my green light, so I try and hold it away. But, how's the fishing? You catching anything? Not yet? Someone asked me the question at dinner if we have any fish in this water, and yes, we do. It's not delicious fish, but you know, it's doable. So the native fish that we have here are things like the humpback chub, the bony tail chub, the razorback suckerfish, and the Colorado River pike minnow. Are you asking? Oh, okay. Oh, you're waving at them. And none of those are tasty fish, by the way. If you do catch native fish, you have to throw them back because they want to keep them native and keep the native population alive. The ones that you can keep are things like carp and catfish. Yes. Apparently, we're also slowly working our way into some northern pike and some walleye. They do have some of those in the river as well. Those are allowed to keep. But for the most part, most of the fish they catch here are not delicious. Part of that's because the water is so warm that we don't get good game fish right here. It's usually about 70 degrees and it can get up to 80 degrees in the summer. Yes. Oh, good. I was just gonna tell you what that is over there. Y'all see the tram over on your right-hand side? Does anybody know where that goes? Absolutely nowhere. What you see is what you get. So the gentleman who built that tram had originally built it to shuttle people up to the Slick Rock Bike Trail, which is at the top of that cliff. Had plans to open a restaurant up there and enjoy it as a nice, beautiful place to see the valley. They ran into a little conflict with the county government when they first went to open, and it's never gone anywhere since. So that's it. If anyone has a few extra $1 million laying around, he might be willing to sell it to you. I'm not sure. Now, can you see my fancy green light over here on the left-hand side in the tree that looks dead? All right, so we're going to follow that green dot as it works its way up the canyon wall to our first face up here. Y'all see this face? We got an eyeball, a little nose, a mouth, a chin, maybe some curly hair over there. Some say he looks like Charlie Brown. Nowadays, for some reason, everybody sees Donald Trump. I think it's the orange hair. Or some have said it looks like Bart or Homer Simpson. So, get lots of them. But this is what we're looking for here in the canyon walls, is these lovely little faces and things. You'll notice this one has a big crown on his head. You know where he went for dinner? Burger Price. Because we don't have a Burger King here. Yeah, so he had to go far, far away for dinner. But this is the natural color of our sandstone, ladies and gentlemen. It's kind of that orangey brown color. You're going to see a lot of this black as we work our way upriver. That's what we call desert varnish. And that desert varnish takes about 1,000 years to get to that dark black color where it almost looks blue. Essentially, it's an oxidization of minerals. So we have manganese and iron in the soil that's here, combines with bacteria and the water and creates that beautiful desert varnish. That's what the Native Americans would scratch into to create petroglyphs. So if you've seen any petroglyphs around here, that's in the desert varnish. Now up here on the left-hand side, you'll also notice this little fancy cement structure. This is the original bridge that crossed over the Colorado River. And where my light is, that is the original bridge built in 1913. That was how tall it was. That particular year it flooded. So they had to add on to that. So that's the extra couple feet that you see up on the top. And I'm not going to shine my light too high because we got some kids up there. Hey! Oh, and one's really shy. So you'll notice that this particular bridge isn't very wide. It's fairly narrow. That's because in the early 1900s, we really didn't have cars out here yet. We were still using horse and wagon. So it didn't need to be very wide. This was considered a very important crossing. There weren't a lot of places along the Colorado River in the early part of our history. But in the 1940s, because it was wartime, they considered this very important. So they stationed a guard here to watch over the river crossing. You'll notice this big rock that's here in the water. This rock used to be located up here in this little crevice that you see. In the middle of the night, one night, that particular rock fell down, hit the guard shack, killing that guard, and then landed in the water. It's the only recorded death that we have of a rock fall here in this area. So pretty impressive considering all the sandstone rock that we have. But that is what that big giant rock is. Now you'll notice a nice lovely bridge behind me. That's our pedestrian bridge. We have a lovely park on the right hand side. Oh yeah, we always get people that like to wave. How's it going, family? There's a nice park over on the right hand side, known as Lions Park. You can park there, walk across this bridge. It's one of my favorite places for sunrise and sunset, because the sun rises right in front of you and it sets back behind you right now. So it's a beautiful spot. It actually also connects our bike trails. We've got a paved trail that goes way north of town. It's super spectacular. You may also notice on the left-hand side, we have a lovely boat ramp. You can launch private personal watercraft here into the river. You're welcome to take them. But what I like to point out is these doors that are back behind in the sandstone wall. You see one right there where my green light is, another one back over here on this side. Back in the 1950s, we started a big mining boom up here. We were mining until about the 1980s, mostly uranium. So that's where they stored the dynamite. Sandstone stays the same temperature pretty much year round. So it's roughly somewhere between 65 and 75 degrees all year round. So it's a great place. Plus it's very dry in there, so they can store uranium. Anyone want to guess what's back there now? Nothing. I always want to ask Deb always, but that's where we store our Christmas decorations. Yeah. Super exciting. One day I'm going to do a game show and somebody's going to pop out of one of those doors. I don't know who has the keys. Now someone asked if we drink the Colorado River water. No. I don't know if you looked at it, but no, we don't drink this. We send this to Southern California, parts of Nevada and Arizona. Y'all can drink this yourselves. We drink fresh, sparkling, clean spring water. So if you notice on the right hand side how the rock angles down here, and there's a little section back behind here, might be a little high for you to see, but where the trees end, right back in there we have a natural spring. It's known as Matrimony Spring, and it flows year round, 24 hours a day. You're welcome to go fill up your water bottles or a jug or anything you want back there, but there are some legends surrounding that, so you have to be careful. One of them is that if you give someone the water from Matrimony Springs, they'll love you forever, which is how I became Captain Ron's sister wife number 5. I'm working my way up to number 2. That's a Utah joke, by the way. They're not really his wife. But we do, and we drink natural spring water. We have about 8 natural springs between here and the Motel 6 in town. So we do enjoy our sparkling clean water. Now also along the right hand side is Highway 128, also fondly referred to by us locals as the River Road. Because guess what?
It's by the river.
It follows the river. Y'all are so smart I might not have anything to do tonight. But yes, the River Road, it's considered a scenic byway. In fact, Reader's Digest ranked it in the top 10 scenic byways one year. Absolutely beautiful. It follows these lovely sandstone cliffs and the river for many miles going upstream. So if you're looking for a little something to do and you want to be in an air-conditioned vehicle, that's a great little drive for you to do. You'll also might notice there's a little bridge coming up here on your right-hand side. That's part of that bike trail. It's paved for about 3 miles going upriver, and then it turns into a dirt trail, and you can ride along up Porcupine Rim or the whole enchilada if you're a bicyclist. Any of you mountain biking fans? Oh, look at you go. Woohoo! I feel like you're like me. I only ride a bike if there's ice cream at the end. Because otherwise, why do it? Everybody who rides a bicycle around here looks miserable. I figure if you can't smile while you're riding a bike, it must not be very fun. So I like to cheer myself up with ice cream. That's how I do it. But yes, we have lots of bicycle trails around here for those that are a little more adventurous, if you will. Now, as we work our way upriver, oh, there was a big fish that just jumped. Those people are fishing in the wrong spot. It was probably a carp. That's what it is. Actually, I have no idea. I couldn't really see it. But as we work our way upstream, I thought maybe I'd see where y'all are from, so you can see how we get people from all over the place coming to visit us. So how about you two? Georgia, excellent. Dallas, you're with them? Okay. That's in Texas, by the way. California, excellent. California. We do have one from Moab. And you're from Montana? Oh, that's the Montana I've been hearing about all week long. How about you two? Colorado, excellent. Minnesota, don't you know? Yeah, sure, you betcha. California as well. Welcome. Idaho. Excellent. Florida. Welcome. Are you all together? Idaho. Idaho. And then she's like, I don't belong to these people. I don't know them. North Carolina. Excellent. How about you all? France. There we go. I was so not going to get that one, was I? Well, welcome. How about you all? Montreal. That's in Canada. I do know that much. And you're from Montreal as well? Excellent. Welcome. All of you? Welcome. Now we're to talk about you. California as well. Northern, southern, central? San Diego. That's Southern California. I'm smart. How about you? Illinois. Excellent. Welcome. New York. Central New York. Not the city where those crazy people are, right? New York. Excellent. Welcome. Florida. Savannah. Georgia. Georgia. Excellent. Germany, welcome. Northern Nevada, all of you together? Excellent. Ohio. Texas. And Kansas. Wonderful. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're so glad y'all joined us tonight. We had a couple years of not so much fun, of the weird world being weird and all that good stuff. So we're happy to have you all. Even you. He's a little upset with me, because I guessed how old he was. He couldn't guess my age. You doing good, Captain? You doing good? Okay, excellent. So now, I mentioned that we've got sandstone cliffs along the river. Pretty much everything that you see around here is going to be sedimentary rock. So this is all rock that's been laid down over millions of years. If you look off to your right-hand side, you're going to be able to see a couple of different layers of the sandstone that we have. We've had roughly 23 different times when we've had oceans or waterways in this area, and 11 different desert periods. So it was super dry. But on your right-hand side, you'll notice this bottom section is fairly smooth. This is what we call the Wingate Formation, and that was laid down during one of our drier periods. Up above that, you'll see some stuff that looks more like horizontal lines, and that's the Cayenta Formation that was laid down during one of our wetter periods. And then way up at the top, that's the Navajo Sandstone. That is desert as well. Has anybody been into Arches yet? Okay, so when you're in Arches, you're actually driving on the Navajo Sandstone. That's the layer of rock that you're on inside Arches National Park. Anybody know how many arches we have in the park? 2,000. That's good. That's a very good guess. You read your literature, didn't you? Good for you. Yes, we have over 2,000 arches in the park. Does anyone want to guess how many we have outside of the park? 12. If you say no, none, I'm going to be sadly disappointed. We have lots of them, probably close to 2,000 outside of the park as well. In fact, if you look up there to your right-hand side, you might see a little hole up there. It looks like a round circle. That's not an arch. That's just a cave up there, but we do have an arch in that spot. So if you can see, there's a little black streak of desert varnish coming down to the right of that black hole. There is an arch just up above that. It's known as Updraft Arch. And Updraft Arch got its name because the gentleman who was building the Slick Rock Bike Trail, he and a buddy stopped for lunch, the buddy threw his hat down, and the hat blew back up at him, so they named it Updraft Arch. Now, this time of year, roughly between probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and maybe 5, you can see light coming down through that. So if you want to see a nice little arch from far away, that's a beautiful little spot. But if you look up there now, you might see 2 of those little alcoves. The one on the right is not an arch at all. It's just a little alcove or a cave up there. But you maybe see a pair of eyes. You want me to shine my light up there? It doesn't go that far. Oh, it kind of almost... Oh, it does! Looky there! Wow, I didn't know it would get that far. So this one is just a cave right here. And that's just a little cave, but the arch itself, its light opening is right above the rock right there. Do you see a face up there, though? Who do you see?
Sid the Sloth.
Sid the Fox? Sloth. Sid the Sloth. There you go. Good answer. And E.T. is always a good one. Some say they see Stitch from Lilo and Stitch. Looks like a beaver. You have some weird beavers where you come from. But yes, you might notice a couple of eyes up there. So it's always fun. You'll also see a little white in between them. That is courtesy of the turkey vultures that nest up there. They leave a little present for us every so often. You can't actually get into those caves because climbing up there would be a pain in the rear end. But I suppose if you were a rock climber, you might be able to make it. Anybody out here like to rock climb? Because we do have some rock climbing. Did you know did you come here to climb? Oh, you work here. Excellent. There we go. So you can climb a lot, right? Anytime you want to, I'm guessing. And then anytime you don't want to because somebody else makes you, right? Perfect. Excellent. Well, we do have some great climbing in this area too, so if you are a rock climber, it's fantastic. Now, we do have some native trees around here and some non-native trees. There are some that kind of look fuzzy over here, and then also along the backside they look fairly dead. Those are our non-native tamarisk tree. This one right here, this kind of bluish gray one, this is a Russian olive, and we have a few of those along the river. And then typically down here toward the bottom, we have the native sandbar willow. And we do love the sandbar willow. We like the Russian olive. The tamarisk tree is not a fan. I mean, we're not a fan. It was introduced in the hopes of helping with soil erosion, which is great. It's helping with that. But the unfortunate thing is the tamarisk tree, a full-grown tamarisk, will drink upwards of 100 gallons of water per day. Not something you really want in a desert. So years ago, they introduced a little beetle that they call the tamarisk beetle that's eating the tree. Basically what happens is after mating season, they leave their larvae in these trees and then the larvae feed off of that. It's slowly working, but we're assuming that one day they're going to introduce a bird that's going to eat that beetle, and then eventually a cat that eats the bird that eats the beetle that eats the tree. You know that song? Yes. So we're hoping to eventually eradicate the tamarisk and get back to some of our more native trees. You'll also see some really tall trees up ahead on the right-hand side of the river. Those are Fremont poplar, also known as cottonwood tree. And those are also big drinkers. They'll drink about 32 gallons of water per day, but they're native, so we don't mind those at all. Just so you all are aware, this is going to be the slowest stretch of the river for us, just because this is where we've got some shallow areas. There's also a rock shelf down below us, so we keep an eye on things like that. I probably should sit down just in case. Anywho, this is one of the areas where they used to cross cattle, if you can imagine. Our early history here in Moab was actually agriculture, so we had a lot of cattle ranching and a lot of orchards. So peach orchards, apple orchards, that sort of thing. Are you waiting on me? Oh, because you want me to show that little thing over there. Captain Ron's really good at waiting for me because apparently I get distracted easily. You might see a little face over here on the left-hand side. I actually see two faces. One of them, he's got a nose right here, his mouth, and a chin, and a little bit of a bald head. I think it looks like my grandpa when he took his teeth out, because you know how sometimes it used to happen. Now you can get fake ones that stay in forever. But I see a second face as well. I would say, yeah, Johnny Depp would be good. So if this was his nose and his mouth and his eye right there and a funky little hat, so Johnny Depp from, or the Mad Hatter. Or I see Daniel Boone with a little cap on top. But if you watch now, if you looked at this as the Gummer or as Mr. Magoo, if that's his nose is going to start getting longer as we go upstream. So he has a little bit of a Pinocchio syndrome, if you will. There we go. Thank you, Captain. Does anybody have any questions at all? Okay, good. Because sometimes questions are really hard for me. We do have some wildlife around here. Some of the bigger wildlife that you'll see will be things like mule deer. It's the only species of deer we have here. They're the ones with the big ears, but they still have a nice white tail. We also have bighorn sheep. We do have things like mountain lions and that you can typically find in the higher elevations or out in the mountains. And we also have a very large black bear population in the LaSalle Mountains. Sometimes those bears make their way into town because apparently they like garbage. So we do get them in town. On the river itself, we do have beavers. Now you'll notice that our river is fairly wide and it's got a decent current to it. So beavers don't build dams across the Colorado River because it's kind of a waste of their time and energy. So what they'll do is they'll burrow into the banks of the river. That's where they'll build their den. And they love the sandbar willow. So you'll often, especially at dusk, that's the best time to really see the beavers. They'll come out and grab some sandbar willow and head back home for dinner. We also, jeez Louise. That didn't hurt me at all. It's totally fine. Okay, So, where was I? Something about beavers? Sandbar willow. Oh, we also have river otters. That's another one that we have. We have river otters out here as well. Welcome to the native wild. Here's hoping in about 12 minutes they turn their lights on. I didn't see little kayaks. So we are in Grand County, if you're not aware. This is one of the largest counties that we have in the state of Utah. We've got 2.8 million acres. We didn't have anybody here from New Jersey, but that's a good estimate because we're bigger than the state of New Jersey. Our county is. And here in the county, we have about 4% of it that's owned by the Ute Nation. 6% of it's able to be purchased, and then the rest of it is all state and federal land. So everything that you're going to see off to our left-hand side as we work our way upriver, this is all Arches National Park. The boundary comes right here to the Colorado River. And then everything that's on our right-hand side as we go up, this is all Bureau of Land Management. The BLM operates a bunch of campgrounds along the way here. So we're going to pass Goose Island here in a moment. It's kind of oh, there is a little beaver over there. So I'm going to shine my light above it. There's one in the water down right below my my light here. It's a little beaver, unless it's an alligator, but I'm pretty sure it's a beaver. We only have 2 alligators on the river, and that looks a little small. We do. If you look up here, there's this one eye. That's the eyeball of an alligator. His snout's coming down this way. And then I'll show you the second one a little bit later. As long as you behave, they stay up there. So it's totally fine. But that's nice. Did you know that beaver's name? Justin. Justin Beaver. You got it. Although Woody's a good one. Sometimes if we see multiple ones over the course of the night, I have to come up with new names. So I might have to hold on to Woody for a little while. But I did point out this little alcove up here. That is what we refer to as Moab Bowl. You know, like Hollywood has the Hollywood Bowl. We have the Moab Bowl. Do you know who plays up there? Rock stars. In case you wanted to know my humor, now you know. It doesn't get any better, ladies and gentlemen. Someone also said the Rolling Stones play up there. But there's a couple things to note in that thing. That is an alcove. So it's not an arch either. In order to be considered an arch, you have to have a light opening that's at least 3 feet in any direction. So that's what you have to be an arch. This does not have a light opening. But you'll notice a couple of horizontal lines right here that are black. That is where water is seeping out of the rock. So we call that seepage. There's water coming out of there. There's plant life that lives up there, mosses, and sometimes we'll get ferns that grow in there. There's also a couple more. So there's an arch back in the back or a seepage that's in an arch shape. And then there's another one up here at the front that's a little harder to see right now. But we anticipate that eventually one of those is going to break through and we'll have an actual arch up there. We don't know when it's going to happen, but you all been so good. Captain Ron's more than happy to sell you discount tickets to get here. He'll bring you up river as soon as it happens. Just pay him $40 in cash later. Don't tell the office. He'll bring you back. One of the things that I think is really unique about this is if you look, you'll see a little black spot right about here. And I pointed out because that particular black spot is a tree growing upside down out of that seepage in the rock. So 2 reasons why it does that. One is that the water source is up above, and 2 is that the light source is coming from the bottom. So that's why it's growing upside down. And I like to point out, because there's one point in the program where we shine some light up there, and you might actually be able to see that tree. We have another one that's, I almost lost my light. We have another one that's over here on the left-hand side, but it's not growing upside down, so I don't think it's as exciting. I like the one that's growing upside down. No questions? Sweet. There's a beautiful view of the moon over your right shoulder. This was a chance for you to turn your neck the other direction. Nobody's seen any more beavers roaming along the way? Okay. Excellent. Sometimes it's nice to just enjoy the night, isn't it? Good. Okay, so we talked about the wildlife that's here. We talked about some of the fish that you can fish for. One of the things that we like to tell y'all here, even though we've got only 6% of this that's owned, everything we have around here pretty much is public land. So there's plenty of things for you to do. We've got UTVing, we've got off-roading of all sorts, we got the bike trails, and lots of hiking. Have any of you been out hiking in the last few days? Enjoying this lovely weather that we have? So our average precipitation around here is roughly 6 to 9 inches per year. That's all the rainfall or water that we get, 6 to 9 inches per year. But that's actually pretty important for us. If we had more than 9 inches, a lot of these rock features that we have in this area would disappear. Because what happens out here is this sandstone is very porous. It will absorb what rain we do get, and it will hold on to it. And so typically in the winter we'll get freezing temperatures, and when that water freezes, what happens to it? It expands, you are correct. So when it expands, it then creates cracks in the sandstone and will eventually lead to rock falls. And that happened by a lot of our arches or some of the other features that we have in the parks. They'd all disappear. And we need at least 6 inches of rain to be able to create some of these features, because you need a little bit of water to create the arches and things that we have around here. So 6 to 9 inches isn't very much, but it's very important to us out here. We've also had some humid, sorry, my microphone keeps cutting out. Let me know if you need me to repeat myself. Anyway, we've also had some very humid weather lately. This is what we consider our monsoon season. Typically monsoons for us happen between July and September. And for us, we call them monsoons, but sometimes our rain is about 15 drops. So we measure our rainfall in the space between the droplets of water. So we get an 8-inch rainfall because there was 8 inches between the 2 drops. We have had a couple of pretty decent rainfalls in the last couple of weeks, where when it does rain, we'll get waterfalls coming down these cliffs. So you'll notice that there's some streaking that happens. That's still desert varnish, but those are areas that get very wet when we have rain. Now we have a fancy little dog up here. For those of you that want to see, here's my little wiener dog. He's got a nose, an eye, maybe his ears flapping. He doesn't have any legs though, so it doesn't matter what his name is. He's not going to come when you call him. If you go up from the nose of that, you're going to see the nose of our other alligator. So there's his nose, his eye. He's sitting on his mama's back, so there's the long alligator up there. And if you come down from the alligator's eyeball, you see a face right here. See that? So we've got 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a pointy little chin, maybe some dark hair. Does she look like you? Medusa, there you go. Did you have a question, or did she look like somebody? You saw what up there? You saw the girl? Oh, perfect. So you caught it before anybody else did. Excellent. So you have Medusa. Some people say she looks like Marlene Dietrich. I've heard Cruella de Vil as well. My friend Rory thinks she looks like Michael Jackson. Yes, young man. It looks like your mom. Hold on. Let's see. Smile pretty. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a similar resemblance. And then down from her we have the profile face of another woman. Her hair kind of sticks up, and then she's got an eye, a long flat nose, a mouth, and a chin. Little ear over on the right. I think it looks like my sister on a bad hair day, but don't tell her I said that. Mona Lisa? Ooh, that's a good one too. So now I pointed out some of that seeping in the Moab bowl. There's another section of it right here that's much more noticeable because it's a little closer to us, but you can see how there's plants that grow where that water comes down. But the reason I like to point out this is if you look down below, there's this big giant rock that's here. And on the left-hand side of the rock, if you look, you can see this shape fits right here in this part of the cliff. So this big giant rock fell down because of that water that seeped out through there. So pretty amazing. And I think this one is pretty cool because it shows you how they don't always necessarily fall and crash. Sometimes they just slide right down off the cliff wall. This one is big enough that if you wanted to, you could actually walk behind it and come out on the other side. Yeah. It's getting there that's a little bit of a challenge. But it is a pretty cool one. Does anyone like dinosaurs? Oh good, sweet. Did you know that we have a lot of dinosaur stuff around here? You do? we are well known for dinosaurs in this neck of the woods. If any of you remember the movie Jurassic Park, when Steven Spielberg brought that movie out, the critics were very vocal in telling him that there's no way that there could have possibly been any raptors that were as big as what he had in his movie. And a couple years after that, they discovered a new species of dinosaur out here, a new one that they call the Utah raptor. It stood 2 feet taller than anything he had in his movie. So suddenly the critics just stopped talking. But yes, we've discovered a lot. In fact, they're excavating one area north of Moab that they found so many new dinosaurs that we actually got permission to create a new state park here. So they're in the process of building a new state park that's going to be dedicated all to dinosaurs. So you might have to come back in a couple of years and see what we can see. You saw the tracks? Oh good, yes. There's lots of places where you can see dinosaur tracks in the ground, or places where you can see the bones sticking out of the wall as well. So that's pretty cool. But we have a dinosaur up here on the wall as well. It's a brontosaurus. So here's his head. It looks like he's eating a little something. His long skinny neck, big giant body right here. His legs are kind of stuck in the mud. Brontosauruses are the ones that have really tiny brains, right? I feel like they're my spirit animal. Because some days that's how I feel too. But yes, if you're curious about any of the places, yes sir. You think it looks like a giraffe? It kind of does. I just feel like the body's a little too big for a giraffe. I feel like it needs longer legs. But you could definitely call it a giraffe because it's got that big long neck right there. But yeah, if you're curious about where we've got some of the dinosaur tracks, the ones that you can see coming out of rock walls, let us know. We'll point you in the right direction. I have another face up here. Can you all see Frankenstein? Oh yeah, he's got his long stringy hair. I see half of his face, so I see an eyeball there and a frowny mouth and his chin, but some people see his eye and this is a nose and he's a mouth down here. I smile and nod. I also see a mountain goat. You want to see my mountain goat? I see a face of a mountain goat right here. So he's got a nose down here and his little horns sticking up. So I see a mountain goat. Anybody else see anything crazy in the wall? There's a big fish up here. You see our big fish? He's got his tail right here, his gill, an eye, his mouth is sticking out like he's trying to catch something. There's a big fish right there. You think it looks like a whale? Yeah. Any other guesses on what kind of fish it is? Some people think it looks like a rockfish. I mean, kinda. Someone said a walleye. I'm not making this up. Other people have said that. It's not just me. Catamaran, what kind of fish do you think that is?
Well, I think he's a native sucker fish, but Sister Tasha suckered you all into looking at him up there.
Did you catch that?
Yeah.
It says it's a native sucker fish. Yes, sir. It looks like a shark, doesn't it? Because you can almost see teeth up there if you look close enough. But as we round the bend here, we're going to get past that nice little low spot in the river. So you're all safe. Captain didn't make me move you all around, so we're good. But we're going to come around the bend and work our way a little bit further upriver. I think before we do that, though, I'm going to point out two more things. It's getting a little dark, so it's a little harder to see things in the wall, but we do have our river witch right up here. Her broomstick is this horizontal line that's here. And if you look closely, here's her face. And she's got a long, skinny nose and her chin, pointy chin. Her hair's kind of flying in the breeze. She's got one of her legs, the other one's kind of tucked under her dress. But there's our river witch right there. And down below her is Winnie the Pooh. Now I'm going to show you Winnie the Pooh with my green light, and then, well, let's see if I can do both. Because sometimes I'm coordinated enough that I can do both. Oh, there we go. So here's Winnie the Pooh. He's got his nose, an eye, his mouth right here, his neck, a little collar. So there's Winnie the Pooh. I gotta use two hands. And so there we go. There's Winnie the Pooh. Some say he looks like Yogi Bear, but I figure if they're both bears, they might be related. Interesting thing to note, you'll see there's this little diagonal crack that comes down. When it rains, the water comes down that, and you don't really see it until it comes out of Winnie the Pooh's mouth. So that's kind of fun. But there we go. You can watch for those as we work our way back too, because we shine lights on these canyon walls, and it's cool to see. Did anybody do any off-roading while they were in town? Go out to Hell's Revenge by chance? Sweet. So up ahead, you'll see some sandstone cliffs with the drippy kind of desert varnish on it. That is the Colorado River overlook of Hell's Revenge. So occasionally we'll see vehicles up there. Sometimes they'll blink their lights at us and we wave back with our lights. But that's one of our off-roading trails that we have. Tucked behind that, you can kind of see a little bit of those grayish peaks back there. Those are the La Salle Mountains. And the La Salle Mountains, the tallest peak out there is Mount Peel, which stands just over 12,700 feet above sea level. We have about a dozen peaks that are all over 12,000 feet in the La Salle Mountains, which makes it the second tallest mountain range here in the state of Utah. So pretty impressive for us. We're happy to take second best on those. It's a fairly small mountain range. You could actually drive around it in a day. We have what we call the La Salle Loop Road, because we're very creative in our naming around here. So the La Salle Loop Road is a nice little drive to go up into the mountains. It's typically anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees cooler up there in the mountains than it is down here in the valley. So it's an excellent escape during our hot part of summer. And there's also hiking trails up there. If you're one of those that's a game fisherman, we actually have several lakes up there where you can fish for trout. And they're pretty delicious trout. I picked some up a while ago. One of my co-workers went fishing with her son and brought back a mess of fish and said, "Here, Tasha, do something with this." Okay. I do as I'm told. Just ask my mother. I'm pretty sure she's rolling her eyes right now. Want to see my cowboy? So here's his hat. It's a big Stetson, so it's kind of on sideways, but you know, we'll consider it's okay because he's laying down. His eye is right here. He's got a pointy nose. His chin. I think this looks like his arm tucked behind his head, like he's resting, and his legs and his foot right here. So there's our cowboy. Big old cowboy right there. For those of you that are also a little more creative and have different ideas of things, I see a frog, a cartoon frog right here. Oh shoot, Captain Ron, you told me.
I said it looks like Mr. Peabody.
Mr. Peabody, that's the one. You remember Mr. Peabody? Some of you from an older generation might remember Mr. Peabody from the cartoon, the little dog. I think he was a dog.
Scientist dog.
A scientist dog, yeah. So, see all kinds of crazy stuff out there, can't you? Now, I mentioned that our early history here in Moab was in agriculture. In the 1950s, we had a big uranium boom where we were desperate for, there was an energy crisis. That's the word I'm looking for. There's an energy crisis in the country. So we were looking for uranium to help power some of our nuclear power plants and things like that. They discovered high-grade uranium here in this area. And if any of you have driven north of town, or if you went out to the Delicate Arch viewpoint, you might have seen a little layer of rock that kind of almost looks bluish-green. That's typically the area that's very prominent for natural fossil fuels and things like that. That's where a lot of our dinosaur bones are found and things. But they discovered high-grade uranium. So between about the 1950s and early 80s, we mined a lot of uranium and vanadium around here. You may have noticed as you were headed out toward Arches, there's a big dirt pile kind of just past where our business is, by the river on that side of the road. That's where they used to have the uranium processing mill. That was located right on the bank of the river. In the 1980s, we kind of ended the mining boom and had to figure out what to do with ourselves. Because we couldn't really go back to agriculture in terms of the orchards and things that we have, because those take several years to establish. Most of those have been decimated during the mining boom because they needed housing. So we turned to tourism. So tourism became our #1 income here in the Moab area in about the 1980s. And as you can imagine, there's plenty of stuff for people to keep them busy. #2 for us in terms of money is actually the movie industry. I don't know if you're aware that we've had a few movies filmed around here. It started with John Wayne. Wagon Master was one of the first ones that he filmed out in this area, but he did Wagon Master, The Searchers, Comancheros, Rio Grande. In fact, this is the Rio Grande in that movie. They used the Colorado River as the Rio Grande. So one side of the river is Mexico and one side of the river is Texas. If you could suspend your disbelief long enough. But then we moved on from there. The film industry says that we average one major full-length movie that gets filmed all or in part out here every year. We do a lot of commercials as well. Apparently Kevin Costner's been in town lately doing a few scenes for a few episodes of Yellowstone, and he's also starting a new TV series fact, there's a scene in that movie where they drive 90 miles an hour through the Grand Canyon, get pulled over by an Arizona police officer. You should go back and watch that movie after you've been into Arches, because when you watch that scene, you'll see the Tower of Babel, Courthouse Tower, Sheetrock, and the Three Gossips in the background. That was filmed in Arches National Park, not the Grand Canyon. The ending scene for that was filmed out by Dead Horse Point State Park. Parts of The Lone Ranger with Johnny Depp were filmed here as well. Mission Impossible 2. Okay, I just talked about this one. River Phoenix comes out of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was filmed out here. Someone got mad at me one night because I forgot about Joe Dirt. They'd gone and recreated some famous scene in Joe Dirt, and I giggled because I was like, what about Joe Dirt is famous? Anyway, but yeah, lots of movies get filmed out here. We've had commercials as well. Most Jeep commercials that you've seen have probably been filmed out here, and Ford Bronco has started doing a bunch as well. I don't know if you're aware, but upriver we've got a new Bronco off-roading thing where they take you out in Broncos, Ford Broncos, and you can go do some crazy stuff. I also feel like we're turning into a big Instagram nation, so there's lots of Insta things that get filmed in this neck of the woods too. I still haven't made it. I have an Instagram, or I had one 5 years ago, but I've never actually logged on to it, so I don't really know how to use it. Anybody have any questions? Does that mean you all know everything already? Sweet. Excellent. Well, we're almost to the starting point of our program, so I just want to go through a few things for you tonight about what's going to happen. The lights are actually going to start up ahead and to the left-hand side. We'll get some bright lights that come up on the canyon wall straight ahead of us. Eventually, the truck is going to work its way out and will follow along with us for a while as we work our way back downriver. There are going to be a couple times in the program where we turn the lights off on purpose. And it's going to be a lovely night tonight because we don't have a lot of clouds up in the sky tonight. So you should be able to see some beautiful stars. The last couple of weeks, we've only had a couple of clear nights. And we were actually even able to see the Milky Way. That's how bright or how dark it gets out here. So definitely look up into the sky and see what you can see. Captain Ron's really good about pointing out some of the constellations as we go through. If you happen to see what looks like a star but it's moving and it's not blinking, that's a satellite. We do get a lot of satellites that we can see up here. In fact, we've seen the space station a few times out here as well, so keep an eye out for that. If you see something that's moving but it's blinking, it's just one of the airplanes headed to one of the local airports, so those aren't as important. But we've seen a few shooting stars as well, so definitely look up to the skies. There's also, if you notice, we came around the bend in the river here. The lights are going to be shining straight ahead when we get to that point, and so when the cars come around the corner, we don't want to blind them, so we will occasionally turn the lights off for those cars, but they will come back on right away as well. Now, you're welcome to take photos during the program if you would like to. The thing that we do ask is you please shut your flash off. All it does is really blind your neighbor. It won't reach the canyon walls, so you can turn your flash off. I encourage you, if you're able, to just tuck your phone away and just not even look at it through the course of the program. Because when you're all done, if you want to go onto our website, canyonlandsbynight.com, we have a section in there where you can download photos that have been professionally taken, and you can download as many of those as you want for free. So you can have some great photos as a souvenir of your evening tonight. But I know sometimes it's hard to not touch our phones, isn't it? Yes, sir. There aren't any observatories nearby. I think the closest one is actually down in Flagstaff. I think that's the closest one that we have. But we do have a lot of companies, well, I shouldn't say a lot. There are some companies that will go out and do stargazing at night in this area. So if you're curious about doing some stargazing. I had someone ask me one time where a good place is to see stars, and I said just walk outside. Because really, that's around here, that's all you really need. You all know that you have to get a reservation to get into Arches, but at night you don't. So after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. you don't have to have a reservation. So you can go out. There's a lot of pullouts along the way. You can just sit and look at the stars. I like going up to Red Cliffs Lodge because it's right on the bank of the river. They've got a movie museum in the basement, so you can sit and check out the history, but then you can stand outside on their grass or on the patio and look at the stars, and it's so dark out here that you see incredible stars. Any other questions anyone has? All right, well, I'm going to go to the back of the boat with Captain Ron during the program itself. I will come back up here when the show is finished, give you some last minute instructions and things like that as we dock. But for now, if you would like to, you're welcome to just stand up and do a little 7th inning stretch before we get started. Once the music starts playing, we just ask that you take your seats and enjoy yourselves tonight, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you when we're all done.